Greetings. Welcome to StarryTelling Hour with Gemini Brett. Looks like this is not beaming to one of our places. Oh, wait, there it goes. Okay. Sorry for the hiccup, friends. Today is August 7th, 2024. If you're into that whole Gregorian trip. And the topic at hand is 8-8 Lionsgate. New age or new cage? Is it real or is it fake? All right, so first let's put this image away. And hey, smoke them if you got them. Portal if you got them. You know, on one level, that's where I'm coming from. If this is a magical time for you, if you want to celebrate the opportunity to step into a higher consciousness or higher awareness, if you are of the feeling that humanity, or perhaps all earthlings, or perhaps everything in the universe gets a level up every year when the Gregorian calendar says August 8th, go for it. So I want you to hear that from me first. You know, it's a strange thing that we celebrate New Year at January 1st. Most of us, right? Not all of you, but most folks are flipping calendars at January 1st, right? This Gregorian calendar thing. Well, why? And when? When is a really interesting question, right? I mean, I used to stay up and we would count it down, right? And maybe there'd be a kiss or something, and the new year begins, right? As I've grown and wrinkle, it's like, nice thing I live in the West Coast because I can watch the ball drop in New York City at 9 p.m. my time, right? As I've gained in wrinkles, but don't watch any of that stuff anyway, you know? But importantly, you know, January 1st happens at a different time in New York than it does in San Francisco. What's up with that? Why are we celebrating the turning of the year at a time that's different in London than it is in Tokyo? It's a strange thing, right? And it's kind of like Christmas Island gets January 1st first, which is interestingly, but I mean, I would promote having a global moment be the time that describes a new year. The year, of course, being defined by Earth's relationship with the sun and the relationship specifically of Earth's pole. So why not Cancer solstice time or Capricorn solstice time when Earth's south pole is leaning towards the light? Or Aries equinox is a time that many suggest because it's when the sun is due east of the center of Earth where we all connect. Importantly, solstices and equinoxes, they are global moments, right? It is a millisecond of time, right? When the sun's north pole, well, let's not talk about the suns. When the Earth's north pole is leaning at the sun, that is the sun ingress tropical Cancer. That is the sun shining above Earth's tropic of Cancer. Like, that is a moment of time for all of us on Earth. Why not an equinox? Why not a solstice to define a new year? Why this January 1st thing? Now, regardless, it's cool that at New Year's time, people set resolutions and contemplate the year ahead. And right, there's the image of releasing that one that came before. I mean, it feels to me that sometimes people overdo that one these days. So many memes have burned down 2023 and birth 2024 or whatever. But regardless, like, people bring their energy to that, right? And we want ceremony, and I want collective ceremony where we can get all of the hearts and minds aligned on a thing. It's one of my favorite things since my weirding about going to the baseball game It was really weird for me at first to go back and watch a baseball game after I started getting weird, because it was like, wait, why are we just like talking smack about each other about these players? Like, that's good. But I'm intrigued to feel so many folks tuned in to the same moment with intention. Do you know what I mean? It's a powerful thing to feel. Now, if we could pack a stadium and contemplate on world peace, it's been done and there's measurable results, like probably better than, root for the home team. Maybe that would be the best way to root for the home team. And I mean, the whole globe team for Earth, right? So on that level, I very much appreciate January 1st. 1-1 sea goat fun, as they call it, right? I mean, there's a beautiful thing. Winter asks here, is there a logical reason why January 1st was chosen at the beginning of the new year? Well, it's named for Janus, right? Who's the god that looks forward and looks back. That's the reason. Some would suggest that January was the first month of the year, though it seems that in an older calendar that would be at a time that we currently call March. I don't think so, because March is named at Mars. There's actually much debate about this. I was flipping through Anthony Avini's Empires of Time today, calendars, clocks, and cultures. Amazing. It's one of the many things I would love to read and check it out. This little bookmark. It's like validation card. That's what I want to get after right now. Let's do a little validation here, right? So I want to have my psychic hat and my skeptic hat and try to find the middle way. The best I've been able to come is to like the actual happening of January 1st. Wouldn't really work, because I see it in some senses aligned with the 12 days of Christmas. These days, those are the 12 days of consumerism leading to Christmas. But back in the day, it began with Christmas and then led to three kings, which are named for Orion's belt, perhaps, Tres Reyes, Epiphany, right? And right in between is January 1st. So that's interesting. But January 1st predates Christmas. It certainly doesn't predate celebrations at this time of the year that this calendar describes now as January 25th. Anyway, it's a brilliant question. Where I want to be again, though, however, is why not celebrate a global moment? And 8-8 Lionsgate might, well, and I didn't even introduce what that is. I don't think I have to here. We're all in the club. You've all heard that 8-8 is this Lionsgate portal, and then all sorts of things about them, whether it was channeled or whatnot, right? That there's some great energy that is available to us, and it's one of the kind of key dates of the year on the ascensional timeline, and on we go. Does anyone want to just put a brief statement about what the 8-8 Lionsgate is? And I'll put that on the screen, because that's probably the best I can do with it. In regards to global astronomy, which is my pursuit here at the School of Earthstrology, the only thing I can find that 8-8, meaning August 8th in the Gregorian calendar, approximates is what we call an astronomical cross quarter, meaning the time between solstice and equinox, specifically northstice, as I like to call it, when Earth's north pole leans towards the sun. That's the sun ingressing tropical Cancer, shining above the Tropic of Cancer, the northern bounds of the sun's travel between that solstice, and then Libra equinox, which I like to call west equinox, because that's the time when the sun is due west of the center of the earth, not anywhere on the surface, but the center of the earth where we all connect. That's why the Libra glyph looks like the setting sun, the ultimate image for the west, at least according to my religion, which is very earthstronomical, right? So the Earthstronomy, the global astronomical happening that is near 8/8, August 8th each year, is the sun at 15 degrees tropical Leo, which is just between 0 tropical Cancer solstice and 0 tropical Libra equinox. And as I have shared many times and always will, like so many sacred systems of ancient wisdom traditions, the signs of the tropical zodiac are directionally aligned. And I would actually even go beyond and suggest they are directionally defined. The directions themselves are defined by Earth's rotational axis, the sword of our stone, Gaia's spine, the world tree. Yes, north and south, not compass north and south, true north, true south. Yeah. And so this is Cancer time, the sun ingressing Cancer. It has nothing to do, by the way, with the constellation of the crab. The Tropic of Cancer is above Earth's Tropic of Cancer, tropical Cancer. Okay. And then this is sun ingressing Libra from Earth's point of view. Right in between is this time now, when the sun is at 15 degrees tropical Leo. It is northwest of the center of Earth. And so that's intriguing as far as the directions go. There are some systems that begin seasons not at equinox or solstice, but rather in between. So you may know about in the Shakespeare, Midsummer's Night, right? Well, what is midsummer, right? The way that we do seasons today, beginning either with an equinox or a solstice, and if we speak northern hemisphere, midsummer is right now. Yes, because northern hemisphere summer begins with the sun's Cancer ingress, summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, right? And then we fall into autumn at sun's ingress, tropical Libra, right? So if that's how we're defining summer, at least for this one hemisphere of Earth, what would midsummer be? And it's when the sun is right in between. Well, that would be a way to approach that. It would make sense. You might do equal a number of days, and it's not necessarily when the sun is at 15 Leo, but let's not go there today, I think. We'll have to talk about how orbits are not circular, but rather elliptical, and the days of the seasons vary in length and other amazing things like that. But let's just say that if we're defining summer, and let me speak northern hemispherically, from sun moving through the signs of Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, then midsummer would be the sun at 15 tropical Leo, right? That's like now. But there was another system that would look at summer from Beltane to Lunasa, right? So these days, those so-called like pagan calendar happenings are typically celebrated on May 1st, May Day, and August 1st, respectively. Beltane, May 1st, Lunasa or Lammas on August 1st. It's always been a great puzzle for me of why we wouldn't align them to the astronomical cross-quarter times, which would be sun at 15 degrees tropical Taurus and 15 degrees tropical Leo. there's a chance that at one point that's exactly how it was done, and with some calendar corruption through, oh, culture side, right? Things got kind of realigned to perhaps the Julian calendar and then readjusted to the Gregorian calendar. We're going to speak about that adjustment a little bit today. Because if you're celebrating 8/8, it's important to know that you're doing that based upon a particular calendrical construct, right? Okay, so we'll spend some time there. Diane writes, Lugnasa Lama celebrations make more sense to me in celebration of new energy, right? So actually, that would be the beginning of fall. And Phelan writes, and I feel this to be true, I think, because not everyone had the technology or understanding to look at the degrees of the zodiac. So May 1st and August 1st works for the common folks. Yeah, if there's a calendar hanging on the wall, right? But what about the days before there were printed calendars? What about the days when the calendar I might be using as a farmer or as a nomadic person would be different than the cat that lives a mile that way because they have a huge hill in the east and I have a clear view of the horizon? What? Because we'll speak about things like the heliacal rising of Sirius or the flooding of the Nile, which people tie to the 8/8 Lion's Gate, which of course has to do with the dog star. Okay, so we have a lot to do, as you can tell, and as it is around here, we're going to get there through Gemini play. we'll climb many branches today, but hopefully continuously return to the trunk from which they branch. All right. 8/8 Lionsgate. Is it real? Is it fake? I think that's up to you and you and you and you. Do what you do. Is it the new age? Or is it a new cage? It's a thing I'm always skeptical of. Let's not just sign up for any religion. It's funny because many people who will promote 8/8 Lionsgate are the same people who will tell you that the Gregorian calendar is this patriarchal construct designed to keep us out of harmony and to attack the goddess. And it's kind of like the folks who both tell you that the moon is hollow and therefore either a spaceship or the home of the Nephilim or the Anunnaki, because when the astronauts left the moon, they shot the lander back at the moon, having already planted seismic devices. And so when the lander hit the moon, we could measure that the moon rang like a bell, and that means that the moon is hollow. And I will often see that spoken of by folks, and then the great theories or quote unquote conspiracies that result literally on the same page as the moon landing was faked. And it was just happening in Stanley Kubrick's studio, right? So you can't have both. You can't give me the moon landings were fake. We never went to the moon. We can't get beyond the Van Allen belts in that whole camp. Maybe you've spent some time eating s'mores with those folks. You can't give me that and the moon is hollow because we shot the lunar lander back at the moon. Like, you can't have a moon landing and no moon landing. Actually, you know what? You can do what you want to do. Smoke them if you got them. Portal if it's open, friends. All right. But I hope you feel where I'm coming from, right? Like, I, Gemini Brett, am a true card-carrying Scorpio and happy to entertain any so-called conspiracy deeply and rabbit hole into the rabbit tunnels and hang out until I can find every carrot possible. But I can still also honor, if one thing contradicts another, they probably shouldn't both belong to your religion. So if you're a huge fan of the Gregorian calendar as an absolute mess and just an attack that was designed by patriarchy, you probably shouldn't 88 Lionsgate. You might want to call it something else. Does that land for everybody? Does that resonate? And if we were to call it something else, what would we call it? Well, I call it Sun at 15 Leo. The sun northwest of the center of Earth. The sun at the cross quarter. Well, the issue is where I live, that's typically August 6th or 7th. But 8-6 Lionsgate, it just doesn't have that flair, Jack. You know? And by the way, in Tokyo, maybe we'll explore a little bit. They do get 8-8 with the sun at 15 Leo, and especially will in the next century. Why would it be any different than this one? Do you know? Do you know the difference between the Julian and the Gregorian calendar? Have you explored our strange leap year rules beyond the every year divided by 4, just like the Olympics? They're intriguing. And why did we have to adjust from the Julian calendar in the first place? And when? Okay. So let me just make sure I kind of finish our climb on this branch where we were, which is that some traditions prefer to see summer as the time from 15 Taurus to 15 Leo. I'm talking Northern Hemisphere when I say this. And therefore, the sun at 0 Cancer is at the midpoint. That would be midsummer. The midsummer actually is the solstice. And in a way, that makes the most sense. But it is like the sun going to its height and then coming down, going up still for a month and a half and coming back from that solstice height, the glory of the king, for a month and a half. Do you see what I'm saying? And the equinoxes and solstices, they're really easier to see. I found a lot of debate about how the ancients wouldn't have known about equinox, and it's really hard to like calculate. You just experience it. I'm going to read this from Sadhvi Jen. Thank you, everyone, for participating here. Thank you for the presence, for the genius of your comments. So maybe it was a giant cross-quarter day celebration, and then they used that to farm effectively. Why would an ancient Egypt do that? But here's a question: why is it all about ancient Egypt? And if it is, why should I be doing it in California? Shouldn't I tune into what the ancient peoples of this land were doing? Or the peoples from where I come? And maybe a good answer is because the Egyptians had it figured out like none other did. Then a question would be, why call them Egyptians? Because that's not what they called themselves. But I digress. And we will go to Giza at some point because that's the headquarters. Well, I don't know if it's the headquarters of the claim, but it's the place that many people point to when they say that 8-8 Lionsgate is about the heliacal rise of Sirius. Okay. So where do we want to be? Let's play number games, right? Like, who would I be if I poked fun at people playing with 8-8? Since I start StarryTelling Hour every Wednesday, every Miraculous, every Mercury's Day at 11:11 a.m. Like, clearly I enjoy number play, yes? Oh, and 8s and 11s. Intriguing. We should probably be there a little bit today. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do a little bit of number play. And has anybody yet heard today called 888? Has that been going around? Like, I haven't seen it, but I've been staring at the eyes of my 7-week-old baby because awesome. And at the stars, my favorite book to read, and working on a course and doing all sorts of things and hanging out in constellations and the like. So We get 8, the infinity portal, right? So that's something we'll return to. Dawn says yes. Laura says S, which I imagine is short for yes. Winter says no, but it makes sense. And why? Because as the real Not Brody tells us, this is an 8-year. Well, what does that mean? So let's get down with some number play, friends. And people will call these digital roots. Some call it Pythagorean numerology, though we really have no evidence of Pythagoras doing this. We don't have much evidence of Pythagoras, but I believe. All right. And that's because, as Valerie wrote, and thanks. Oh, I missed. Sue wrote, yes. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8. Right. So this is number game, right? And it's really good for you. And it's sad that they don't teach us this stuff in school because it opens up a whole new avenue of number. And so the deal is we add things, and if it's more than 9, some say more than 22, and we're going to play that a little bit today as well. Then you'll break it down until it's a single digit. So let's look at that a little bit, right? So the idea of 2024 being an 8-year is that 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4, right? The numbers that make up 2024 equal 8. Right? So we could say that this year of 8, 2024 equals 8, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8. Now, even there, we would probably say, well, that's 8 plus 8 plus 8, which equals 24. And so that today is a 6 because 24 equals 2 plus 4 equals 6. Before I put this on the screen, I just want to do a few things because when I'm playing numerology games like this, the symbol that I use rather than equal is equal. So you'll see what I mean when I put this on the screen. Okay, so, and you're already ahead of us anyway, right? But 8, 20, 24 equals, right? 8, and then 8, because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 is 8. So you get 8. But if we wanted to get like the number, some call it the soul number of this day, like a child born today, for example, we would actually go beyond this and we would do 8 plus 8 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4, adding up all the numbers, right? Some would do 8 plus 8 is 16 for the day and the month, and then add 16 to 2024. Well, what do you get? You get 2040, and then that's 2 plus 0 plus 4 plus 0 equals 6. So today is a 6th day, right? So everybody, I'm going to do one other thing, but everyone, please share with me your number. I'll show you mine. I was born on October 24th, 1975. And I'll go, that equals 10 plus 24 plus 1975, which equals 34 plus 1975 is 2009, which equals 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 9, which equals 11, which equals 1 plus 1, which equals 2. All right. So, that's my numerology. And I want to just share that this, in a sense, was the first, I guess, like mystical system that found its way to me. And thanks to my dear and amazing sister Hillary, who at one point in time gifted Uh, oh my gosh, why am I free? The Tarot Handbook by Angelus. Phelan, could you please help me out here? I know you know. I'm just about to pronounce her name incorrectly, and I could look it up. Maybe I will, just because we might have a delay, and I don't want to say this wrong. So let me just look real quick. Right. So the Tarot Handbook by Angelus Arian, or maybe Angelus, um, in which we're shown this kind of numerological play to get after your soul number. So I just want to read some that came in. So we have a 1 in the house, a 5. Wendy's an 8. All right. This is your day. We have a good amount of 8s here. 7s, 11 for Sue. So same as me. Another 1, 5s. Right. Okay. So all you 5s, team up. All you 3s. So I like wait, where was my 11 fam? Sue, am an 11. So in this system, some would just break anything down to a single digit number, 1 to 9. By the way, 0 will never show. 0 is not a number, it's a concept. Or is it? So some would say if your number's larger than 9, like 11 is, keep going. And that's why on the screen you see my own personal math, and the 11 becomes 1 plus 1 equals 2. Some say like this: isn't 11 a master healer? I don't know. I can say I need some master healing. Does that work? What about you, Sue? Because you're in the 11 crew. Some say if you get numbers like 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. You leave them where they are. You don't break those ones down. Winter, I think it's okay with you if I put yours on the screen. Here's another example that we get 12, 25, and 1970. So by the way, there's a couple of different ways to go. One would be, and sometimes you actually get a little bit of a different result if you're not breaking it all the way down to 9. So with 12, 25, 1970, as Winter has done here, we could say 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 0. And 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, plus 9 is 20, plus 7 is 27. Winter, did I do that wrong? 3, 10, 27. Yeah, you're a 9. Something went wonky in there, I think, Winter. Let me do it. So let's go another way, is I could just say the day of the month plus the month. So 12 and 25 makes 37, and add that to 1970. 1970 plus 37 is 2007. And then go 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 7 is a 9. So Winter, you're a 9. I'll put this one back on the screen. So in Angelus Arian system, if it's 33, you would continue on, and then the 33 becomes 3 plus 3 equals 6. However, if it's 22, well, not 22, if it's 11 or anywhere between 10 and 21, you're going to have two different numbers. So like I'm an 11, for example, and Angelus Arian would say that the 11 is my personality number, but then the 2, always breaking it down between 1 and 9, is my soul number. And why limit it at 21? Because she's working with the major arcana of the tarot, right? This came from the tarot handbook. And what you would do is, well, right? So like I'm born in 11 too, but if I was looking for the year of 2023, my most recent birthday, I would then kind of update and go 2024, 2003 equals, I'm just going to go equals and do the math. So 34 plus 2003, because 10 plus 24 is 34, right? I can just call that a 7, by the way. But 34 plus 2003 is 2037. And then 2 plus 3 plus 7 is a 12. So that equals 3. Right. So if I'm using her system, I'm actually in a 12-year. And then I'll move into a 13-year and the like. And it's an intriguing system. Like there's a lot to it. And however, so we're just not in number play all day. Let's honor that. That's completely based upon the Gregorian calendar construct. So again, if you're choosing the whole calendar is a bunch of mess that the patriarchy and Pope designed to keep us out of harmony with the natural cycles of life and destroy the goddess, then you probably shouldn't like celebrate your soul number. I mean, does that sound reasonable? Right? And again, look, I call myself Gemini Brett. Do it all. Why not? And let's stay open-minded to all of it. But let's also try not to live in subconscious conflict due to unanalyzed contradiction. Right? So Diane, the thing that I like to say often, if you're into that whole Gregorian trip, right? You can't have the moon landing as fake and also have the moon as hollow because we shot the moon lander at the moon. Yes? Or you can. Just you have two different selves, and that's fine because you do, right? So, first of all, I think if we want to play with this 8-8 Lionsgate thing, how much of it has to do with the number itself? Right, like Neo the Wise was talking about the infinity portal before. Well, that's intriguing. Why? Because 8 is this number of infinity. And, here we are starting StarryTelling Hour as we do at 11:11 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. And I love 11, and maybe that's because I'm an 11. Or maybe I love 11 because I was taught to do some magical tricks that suggest that I'm an 11, at least in personality, but a 2 in soul, and therefore I'm associated 2 with the high priestess and 11 with hard to say. So let's actually pet that cat really quickly. Let me get the screen on the screen, on the screen, in the screen, in the screen of Brett, inside of Brett, inside of Brett. I love doing that. This. So Angelus Arian's Tarot Handbook. Let me show you that. Utilizes Crowley's cards. And I got way into this thing until I started reading some Crowley and then was like, oh my goodness, this is pretty dark. And I don't mean to offend you, do you? Portal if you got them. But like what you read about these Thoth Tarot cards in Angelus Arian's book are very different descriptions than what you read from Crowley when he writes about them. Well, the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention is because Crowley was part of the Golden Dawn, right? And this deck also came out of that crew. This deck that they call Rider Waite. Yes, some prefer to say Rider Waite Coleman Smith to honor Pamela Coleman Smith, who painted these images. There was a deck that predated the two from that same crew, which is called the Hermetic Tarot. Let's look at Hermetic Tarot 8 and 11. Will that do anything for us? I'm going to need much better glasses than this. But I'm pretty sure, you know, I could just grab the cards. They're here. I got a file on you. They're here somewhere. So let me actually do that because I would like to know this. And Phelan and others here could probably answer this as well. But from what I understand, the Hermetic Tarot was a deck that came out of the Golden Dawn before Rider Waite, and that was before Crowley's Thoth deck came around later on. I haven't played with these cards, so they're still, you know, in order. So they call in the Hermetic Tarot the 8 Fortitude, and you can see the lion there, and actually I believe that's meant to be the glyph for Leo in the corner, not the north node. And then they call the 11 Justice, and you can see the Libra glyph on high, right? So it wasn't the Rider Waite Coleman Smith deck that waved a magic wand, but rather that wand was waved before, and Crowley unwaved it or double waved it. I don't know how it works. I haven't learned those spells. What wand am I talking about? Well, they flipped the 8 and the 11. And the reason why is they wanted to maintain some linearity, I guess, in their circle. Because this was a time when, in the Golden Dawn tradition, they were tying the astrology to the tarot. That doesn't mean it hadn't been done before, but from what I know, and this is not in my wheelhouse, okay, so please correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Hermetic Tarot coming out of the Golden Dawn. Folks like Case and Waite and Crowley and the like, where we get these images like the twins are associated with the sign of Gemini, and the chariot, the lovers with Gemini, and the chariot with Cancer. And 8, therefore, better be Leo, because the 9, the hermit, is Virgo, right? The 10, the Wheel of Fortune, is Jupiter. Like, what? Okay, so why are we tripping? But the order of the signs is kind of honored in this approach where they switch the 8 and 11 around. Because if you go to the older tarot decks, like back in the day, like the Marseille deck, for example, then you will find that the 8, and you can kind of see it in its shape, right? The limnoscate, or that infinity, or that balance, was the card of balance or justice, or it has different names throughout decks, right? Actually, Thoth calls it adjustment, which is interesting because he kind of made a readjustment. So let me just share those images and then we'll move along. But if you're tying this to like tarot imagery, interestingly, it depends upon which decks you're working with, right? The Rider-Waite framework is that for so many decks that have come since. And the Rider-Waite, like the Hermetic Tarot, wave the magic wand and they shift the nature of the 8 and the 11. So let me just get some stuff on the screen, inside the screen, inside the bread, inside the bread, inside the bread. When we go to Rider-Waite here, we'll see the 8, and I love, you get to see the limnoscates or the analemna, the figure 8 above the crown of this beautiful goddess taming the lion. But we see the 8 there, and then also in Roman numerals above, right? 8. And then the 11 is the Justice card. Whereas in the Thoth deck, we're going to find that 8 is the scales, right? And you can see the Libra thing in here. Oh, that's actually the Alpha and the Omega. You see the Libra thing in the glyph, and then also or in the scales, and then also down here written in some versions of this deck. And yeah, instead of calling it balance or justice, here called adjustment. And then with the 11, lust. Some say luster. Whereas if you go back to like the Marseille deck, for example, I can't spell. La Force, right, is the 11. And so many said that it was Thoth who kind of, or Crowley in this deck who like messed this up. Actually, he was returning to the older ways to do this, right? Let's see if we can look at the 8. That's too tiny. And this one does not have the 8. Anyway, the 8 in the Marseille deck will be the image of balance, where the 11 is strength or force, or the 8 justice. Let's see if I just type in justice, where we go. Again, like I don't know this well enough, and sadly I didn't have time to just put a bunch of slides together to make this flow a little more easily, so I appreciate your patience. Right, so justice as the 8, right? Force for strength for the 11. And that's what Crowley did. He actually got back to the way it was, even though he associates the 9 with Virgo, right? The next one, he goes Leo, he kind of retrogrades. Well, the adjustment, I guess, was made here or by the Hermetic Tarot folks, because again, they wanted their code that aligned the Tarot with the astrology signs to have an order, right? So that the 4 emperors associated with Aries, and the 5, the Hierophant with Taurus, which kind of seems weird, and the 6, the Lovers with Gemini, and the 7, the Chariot with Cancer, and the 8, instead of it being strength and that kind of Leo image or force or that Leo image, then got switched. Sorry, no, you do bring then Leo to the 8. And then you have to have the balance, which is, or justice, which is a very Libra image after Virgo, right? Which are 9 and 11, intriguingly. So I've spent way too much time here, and I'm probably walking a street you've already walked before. But I wanted just to say that if you play with tarot correspondence in your number magic, well, what deck are you using? And what calendar are you using to get there? And the fun thing about 8-8 is it kind of has an 11 in there, right? Because you get two of the same number, 11 being the first one of those, 11, 22, 33, 88, 88, 8 times 11, and all the fun things that we can do. Mystical Risings, is that French? Oh, I missed again. Because y'all are commenting so quickly, which is greatly appreciated. Thank you. It's also very much appreciated if you give the video a like. It helps get the word out. These weird words. Okay. Is that in French? So the Marseille deck, yeah, is a French deck. And there are many of the old Renaissance decks are kind of from that region. And I haven't seen one that does have this system of, 22 so-called trumps. Right. The magician, by the way, is 1, but the fool back in the day was not 0. It was the numberless card. It goes anywhere. I think that's a really important thing to know or to remember for these sacred systems too. There is no 0. But yeah, all the ones that I have seen until this Hermetic Tarot time, this Golden Dawn time, have 8 as the image of balance, which we astrologers might call the Libra image, balance, justice, and the 11 with strength or force, or Crowley just called it lust. So it's intriguing if I follow this system based upon the Gregorian calendar, where I find out I'm an 11, and I can break that down to 2. Well, the 2 is the priestess, and neither of these popular decks that kind of emerged from the Golden Dawn times, the Rider-Waite on one side and the Thoth deck on the other. But in one, it's like, it's all about lust, right? And I mean, it's an intriguing card, right? So as I shared before, this was kind of the first of the sacred systems that I came to, where I was kind of told to identify myself as this. But if Angelus Arian had written that code, but was simply using this deck, I would be that. It's like a very different image, right? So which cards are you using? Which calendar are you using to get there? Because if I looked at the Julian calendar date, I wouldn't be an 11 or 2 at all, and today's not 8-8. So I think it's important for us to honor that. If the 8-8 Lionsgate is all about the 8 and the 8 of the thing, well, it's completely coming from this Gregorian calendar construct. Well, that took me on a little adventure that brought me back to way back in the day, and it was kind of fun. So we're going to play that out a little bit further, and then I'll speak about the heliacal rising of Sirius, and we'll look at the flooding of the Nile a little bit too. And we'll also look at, if this is 8-8 Lionsgate, how about a lion star, like the royal star Regulus, the lion's heart. Okay, so much to do. Where to go next? (11:11 a.m. on August 7th, 2024. I mean, so tomorrow, of course, we get to this 8-8 Lionsgate, where the sun is, as I said before, at 15 Leo. Oops. like that's happening now. Well, maybe it's because it happens at 8:08 a.m. Of course, right? 8:08 a.m. on 8/8 in 2024, which is also an 8. That's 8/8. Well, maybe it's at 8:88 a.m., which I guess would be 9:28. Anyway, no, the sun's at 1633 Leo. Wah, wah, wah. So let's see when the sun's at 15 Leo. And this year of 2024, it was on August 6th. Okay, well, at least where I live, but I live pretty far from the prime meridian, the center of all time, which of course is Greenwich. What? Why? But that's the code that most of us are using. And remember also that when you play with 8-8, you're defining that date based upon the colonial structure of the prime meridian moves through Greenwich, England. Have you drank that cup of tea? Pinky's out, I guess. Well, maybe we should go towards the side of the map where time starts. So how about we go to like Tokyo? Oh no, there goes Tokyo, go go Godzilla. Let's relocate in this year of ours to another place. We will find our way over the date line, as they say, to Tokyo, Japan, where the sun ingressed or moved to the 15th degree of tropical Leo at this cross quarter point at 9:09 a.m. on August 7th. And you can hear my baby Maya crying. She's like, damn, man, I thought that was going to be the one. Well, maybe it is, and it's just not this year. So fortunately, the astrology software lets us quickly do number fun. And you know what? For this play, since we're just looking at the sun into 15 Leo, let's only show the sun on the screen. And let's also take our feet off of the ground and work with more of a global zodiac, though I am wanting to do this for a place that's on the early side of the date line. Okay, so in 2024, August 7th. So you're going to want to just look here as I move through the years by asking AstroGold software to place the sun at 15 degrees tropical Leo at that cross quarter when the sun is northwest of the center of Earth where we all connect. Okay, so in 2025, August 7th. And I'm just going to start reading out the calendar date, and you can look at the years. And sorry, I can't leave my circle there because it follows my mouse to this place that I need to click. August 8th, there it is. On August 8th, 2027, which, by the way, is an 11. We've solved the riddle. Go, go, Godzilla. This is it. The whole scene is about Tokyo. Wait, but they told me it's about Egypt. So we better take a trip to the Great Pyramids. Let's relocate this thing to Giza. Yeah? Even though, from what is said, Giza was never the capital. I think it was just the capital of the time, well before the civilization that we call Egypt these days. Let's go to Giza. Where, dang it, August 7th, 2027. Wait, is that 777? No, I'm just trying too hard. When the sun gets to 15 Leo at that year. So here we go. Let's just keep our eyes here and we'll cruise through the years. August 7th, 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 8, 7, Lion's Heaven. Oh, wait, 8, 6, Lion Sticks. In 2036. It's right because it rhymes. Let's move forward. August 7th, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6. We're now in 2067, 975. And I want to get into the 22nd millennia because what? Did you notice how it's the first time we got an August 8th? Now, the software has the sun at 1502 Leo because there's some weirdness, but I mean, I could just rewind until the sun's at 15 even, and we still get 88 Lionsgate and 2103. So why did I have to get to 21 for that to go down? And what if I went backwards in time? Well, let's try that one. So, because you see all these August 7th for Giza, Egypt, when the sun gets to 15 degrees tropical Leo, if the Lion's Gate has something to do with the cross quarter. Now, we did get an August 8th in 2003. We got an August 8th in 2007. So maybe I just didn't try hard enough. But after that time, like it's pretty much 7s and 6s. What the heck happened? Let's go back further in time. And I'm sure all of you astrologically inclined, beautiful beings. And by the way, so here I am before 2000. And look at how much more common the 8s are. 8-8, Lion's Gate. 1975, that's the year of my birth. Yes. When the sun gets to 15 degrees tropical Leo, August 8th on the calendar in the year of 1975. We saw this as recent as 2003, and even since that time. When was the most recent? In Giza, Egypt, we had sun at 15 degrees tropical Leo on August 8th, 2007, 889 Lion's Gate. Okay, well, why are we in Egypt? The thing that brings us to Egypt around the Lion's Gate, at least from most, sources I find, Lion's Gating around the internet, the winternet, is that it's all about the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, and would have nothing to do with this 15-degree Leo thing. Robin, thank you for that. That just added a year to my life because I had forgotten it. Baby's reminding me. Actually, she takes me in both directions. Well, let's call a calendar, folks. That's why I personally get triggered by the, what do they say now, CE and BCE instead of AD and BC, because the AD and BC are based upon Christ, right? And so let's switch it to the Common Era, CE, and before the Common Era, BCE. Well, you're using the Pope's calendar, son. So, like, why are you going to try to rub the Christ out of the Christian calendar? But wait a second. The Julian calendar didn't have anything to do with Christ. If Christ indeed came here to Earth, I mean, if the sun actually, wasn't that at like 1 and crucified at 33? There's much debate. There's been much astrological research worthy of, our time, I guess. But the Julian calendar was first proposed by Julius Caesar. And while we do hear Christ say, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, he wasn't talking about Julius, kids. He was talking about Octavius. Because et tu, Brute, y'all, Julius got stabbed in the back in like 44 BC. Oh, sorry, BCE. I don't want to be not PC. So really this, Christian calendar wasn't Christian. I saw a cat post on the interwebs in recent days that like the whole 8-8 Lionsgate thing is totally fake because it's based on this Pope's calendar, the Gregorian calendar. And it's like, that's like not where August was born. Sorry, let me just ask the kid to not throw a ball against the wall. Hey, Koa, can you please not throw the ball against the wall? I'm in a thing. And I love you. Sorry, just a little bit of Saturn. Right, and I was like, the Pope didn't make this calendar, dude. Now, the calendar did go through an adjustment, and we need to spend a little bit of time there. Like, if there's anything that associates this 8-8 with 15 degrees tropical Leo, this time of the sun's journey, halfway between the solstice and the equinox, at least by zodiac degree, then in which calendar? Because in the 16th century, there was the Gregorian calendar advent. Now, first of all, 8, the 8th month of the year, which is, of course, August. And certainly not October, even though oct means 8. What the heck happened there? Wait, what? Well, there's two potential reasons. One is that the calendar originally was aligned so that the year began in March. Some often say March 25th. Why would that be? Because there is a time each year when the sun is due east of the center of the earth where we all connect. And east is the place of new beginnings. Simply watch the sunrise if you want to remember that truth. There is a global ascendant. Look, east from New York is different than east from San Francisco in any given moment. That's why they have different ascendants and time zones, okay? But there is a global east because there is a global north and a global south. This is the secret to the global nature of the tropical zodiac, despite seasonal opposition in temperaments, right? There is a global east, and it's the cusp of tropical Pisces and Aries, right? So when the sun ingresses Aries, it's due east of the center of Earth. That might be a good time for the beginning of the year because east is beginnings, you see. And so many do celebrate, many astrologers especially, the sun's Aries ingress in the tropical zodiac is the beginning of the astrological year. I mean, some of the rationalist astronomers actually suggest this as the beginning of the astronomical year, right? Jennifer, I am sorry that I cannot heal this, and I hope that we don't take you all the way over the edge in your craziness around September and October, November and December, because you have respect for, I don't know, etymology, number, maybe, deck. Decagon is a 10-sided figure. It's a 10-sided shape. So why the hell are you telling me that December is the 12th of the month of the year and not the 10th? Okay, so if we start in March, dig this. Let's make March 1 instead of 3. Can you do that with me? Breathe. I'll just say March is 1. Okay. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October is 8. Amazing. Or maybe January was the first, even before this whole Kung Fu. Sorry, Caesar practiced a different type of martial art. Regardless, let's do it like this. January, February, March, April, May, June, September, October is 8. But what the heck happened? Why did it take me such a long pause? Because it's difficult for me to remove the July and remove the August. They were introduced at a time when we shifted from an older Roman calendar of 10 months to the Julian calendar, which you are all familiar with because it's the framework for the Gregorian calendar that now most of us use. Who is July named for? Does anybody have a offering? I ask you, chat. Who is the month of August named for? And real, not Brody, time traveling and answering the question before I asked it. Julius, Augustus. That's, of course, why they are both 31 days. You can't give the emperor the short month. Right? They better each have 31. You might even think about 32, right? Now, many will people you'll hear it so often that the Gregorian thing's completely in like disharmonious, that it's literally constructed to take us out of whack. And again, like sign me up for any conspiracy theory, I'll at least take a look. The issue is this: if you go back to older systems of like lunisolar calendars where we actually time the months to the phases of the moon, the months to the moons, well, there's a couple issues here. One is that 12 moons, 12 lunations, 12 cycles of lunar phases, it's like 354 days. It's actually 354.3 something, but you would just do 354 on a calendar, right? And the way that they would get there is by alternating between months of 30 days and 29. And the reason is the average period of a lunation. What am I doing in my hand? This is moon conjunct sun, full moon, new moon, full moon. Okay. The average lunation is 29 and a half days. And while it would kind of be cool to have a half day where one day ends at sunset and the next day begins at sunset, or well, that's not it. I don't know. Anyway, it's much easier to keep, of course, whole numbers of days. So you might start every day at sunrise. And you do a month of 30 of those. Most would, by the way, begin days at sunset because that's where we first see the evidence that the moon has survived her monthly trial by fire and see the sliver crescent, the young moon, Diana's bow. But regardless, you do 30 days, and then the next month is 29. And then 30, 29, 30, 29, 30, 29, 30, 29 to keep this 29 and a half day pace or period of one new moon to the next. Well, the issue is 12 of these months, 12 times 29 and a half is 354 days a year. That is not. So if you like things like life, which I'm told requires things like food, you might also want to honor the solar year. Because while it is beautiful to plant and harvest with the moon, if you don't honor the seasons, you're done, son. Yes? So when we recreate the calendar, let's do this, y'all. We're going to need to keep a lunar calendar of moon phase and also keep a solar calendar. You know what the good news is? We're all doing it because we're celebrating new and full moons. I bet you are. I bet you are. And we're looking at the best calendar, which is not 365.25 days or 365.2425 days or 365.242199 days in length. It is 360 degrees in length. And that, my friends, is called the tropical zodiac. Okay, well, where does that circle begin? On January 1st, where the sun might be at this degree or that? How about at solstice? Or how about at equinox? How about the entrance into one of the cardinal signs, so named because they are aligned to Earth's cardinal directions? Then which one? Solstice? Well, winter solstice, but that's different in Peru than it is in Timbuktu. Things stay tricky, but we want to act locally and think globally, and maybe global east, which again is the sun's Aries ingress when it's due east of, wait, oh my God, I've never realized that Easter happens at the time when the sun is east of Earth. And the sun is therefore on the cross of the ecliptic and the equator. Oh, yes, I have. Take my sacred astronomy class. Right. Easter. So when is Easter? How do you calculate Easter? Who knows? Class? 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 Well, We do appreciate the flattery, but I'm not seeing the math. So in 325 BCE, sorry, it was 325 AD, a bunch of folks came together to scrap the books out that they didn't like and choose the official ones to rule the world. It was called the Council of Nicaea. And at that place, they decided how we should now, moving forth, calculate the Easter. The first Sunday, because this is solar worship, so the day of the sun, which is a system which goes back all the way to the Chaldean astrologers, after the full moon, after the spring equinox, or to speak more globally, instead of spring equinox or vernal equinox, let's say east equinox, okay, or Aries equinox, because of course spring equinox in Rome is fall equinox in Cape Town. Do they actually wear capes? Always wondered. Okay, like it's a whole town full of people in capes. Amazing. So let's take it back to Rome, y'all. What had happened that they needed to define the time of equinox, or wait, not equinox, Easter? Well, part of it was separation from the older calendars because they were born of different religions. And a lot got buried then that probably later they wish they had not destroyed through their hatred of folks who were not aligned to the empire's new religion. The one ring that rules them all. And sorry, I get carried away. So the Council of Nicaea did many things. Did they maybe therefore realign the calendar so that 15 Leos hosting the sun's annual travel would coincide with 8/8 Lionsgate? Well, maybe. I went back to look because I was really interested. People are so hung up on 8/8. Well, what did they do before the Gregorian calendar advent? So let's talk about that a little bit. Anyway, just to do the Easter thing one more time, because it's a whole lot of fun, is it honors 3 cycles, one of them really magical, the planetary association with the days of the week. Many Christians wouldn't understand that they're worshiping on Sunday because Sunday is the historical day of the sun, and that guy called Christ is the sun in the sky. Oh, by the way, that's just the thing on my wall. That's not the actual sun. And as far as I'm concerned, the sun can do anything it wants. It can incarnate as a Krishna or Christ or do whatever. It could take my sideburn hair and make it uncomfortably weird for me. Whatever the sun wants to do, the sun can do, But they're also working in this Easter calculation after full moon. And of course, full moon is the time when moon is opposite sun from what? From Earth. So we not only get the magical days of the week, this sevenfold structure, which goes way back, and it's definitely an astrological thing. And it's, in the framework of the planetary magical hours and such. But then we get Earth, Moon, Sun, we get the lunation, and we get Earth, Sun, because it is that journey which makes things like equinoxes and solstices. And equinoxes and solstices, right? It's all about the alignment of Earth's pole and therefore cardinal directions and therefore zodiac, at least tropical zodiac, the Earthstrological zodiac, and the light. Earth and sun, matter and spirit. Earth, moon, and sun, matter, soul, and spirit. Magical days of the week, of course, on Sundays, because we worship the sun. Intriguing and kind of awesome, actually. But what day on the calendar? Well, it's going to change because it's actually kind of astronomically ordained. I mean, it is in two of its three rules, which are equinox and full moon. Sunday is not an astronomical thing. You okay with that? Maybe let's take a breath. Sunday's it's not astronomical. Some actually at the Gregorian times claim that perhaps Easter was slipping from the equinox because Adam recorded the first Monday incorrectly. Hilarious. Okay, before we go there, let me first just say this. If you honor the old frameworks for the lunisolar calendars that alternate between months of 30 days and 29 days to keep the average 29 and a half day period between consecutive new moons, then when you create a solar calendar, it might make sense to alternate between days of 30 and 31. Why 31, not 29? Because the 29 and a half day is lunisolar, it's Earth, Moon, Sun. And the solar calendar did cast the moon aside. I mean, there are generally 12 months a year, 12 lunations a year, but there's actually 12.37, which, by the way, is closer to 12 than 13. So be careful with that camp, too. They haven't watched the sky. In the old lunar calendars, we would have leap months. So there would be 7 years with a leap month out of every 19. So in the 19-year period, that synchronizes the solar and the lunisolar or lunar, because 19 solar years, Earth about the sun, is almost exactly equal to 235 lunations, which is the trippiest thing, especially since in our day and age, 235, the Earth's tilt is 23.5. It's actually 23.4, but if you honor that, you have to know that this is 66.6, and nobody wants to say that shit. I digress. So in the 19-year system, if you're doing months, what happens is 12 years with 12 months, 7 years with 13. So if you're in the 13 moon camp, you got to watch the sky a bit. Okay. So there had been a long history for many cultures, and many of them still exist, right, of using these moon phases to define months. And then you're alternating typically in these calendars. Almost all of them do this between months of 30 days and 29. So there had been a precedent of this, yes? Well, why would we alternate between 30 and 31? Get your calculators out, kids, because I want you to take 365 days. If you want to be closer, do 365 and a quarter, right? That's why we need a leap day every 4 years, is because the Earth spins more than 365 times each orbit. Rather, it's 365 and a quarter. And it's actually, we later found out, more like 365.2422. Let's use that number. We can get more specific, but that's okay. Okay, well, if that's the amount of days and fraction of day that it takes for the sun to go around the zodiac, because it's the amount of days or Earth rotations and fraction of a rotation that happens in Earth's annual orbit about the sun. Well, let's see what happens if we divide that by 12. Because if we're going to use a 12-fold structure, 12 signs for the year, right? Let's divide the days in a year in fraction of a day by 12, and we get what? 30.44. Oh, so do you see why you would alternate between 30 and 31? because the average amount of time it takes for the sun to move through one sign of Earth's zodiac is 30.44 days, which of course is between 30 and 31. Now, 30.44 is not 30.5. So you need, I guess, more 30s and 31s and maybe the 28 and sometimes 29 is an honoring of the moon. It's hard to say. I'd really love to hang out with those cats and figure out what the heck was going down when they defined this weird system. And I don't want to offend any of you February birth peoples, but Tom Robbins did tell us that February is worthless as the extra R in its name. That's what happens when you live in Washington State. And let's not even talk about Washington. Okay, so there was a time in Rome where they realized they had to do something about this thing. Even at the Council of Nicaea, they realized that the Julian calendar wasn't like working right, that holy days were slipping slightly through the seasons. And the reason why is the Julian calendar was based upon a framework of 365 and 1/4 days per year. And so it's a system that we're all so used to, which is you have 365 days in a year for 3 years, and then a leap year with 366 days, where February gets that 29. Right? And it's the years that are divisible by 4. So the years 4, 8, 12, etc. 2024. Do the math. Okay, well, the issue is the year is actually slightly shorter than that. Very slightly different. It is 365.242199, right? And back in the day, they didn't have decimals to get there, right? They had to work with fractions, and it's really tricky to sort this out. Plus, at the Council of Nicaea, when they decided how to do a better Easter that was removed from calendar and religious systems that had preceded them, and when they decided to start burning astrology at the stake, they destroyed all the evidence of older systems that actually had figured this out already. So by the time they realized that Easter had slipped too far from the equinox and the calculation wasn't working well enough, because somebody had to understand that Easter is about the sun east of Earth. And you might say, well, that's just the convenience of the English language, dude. Well, look into Wester, goddess of the dawn, and the roots of Easter and the pagan egg hunting tradition and such. Oh, wait, egg fertilizing tradition or whatever it may be. Let's stay on track, Brett. That's why we had to start calling this StarryTelling Hours, right? So maybe there's been enough calendar play for you. Let me just say this, that there was the Gregorian reform, right? Pope Gregory, y'all. Where it was like, look, Easter has slipped too far from the equinox. Christmas is too far from the solstice, when the sun is actually born each year. We got some problems, kids. Something went wrong. And literally, folks were like, oh, Adam must have recorded the first Monday wrong. Like, that's written. Really? And this is when you started seeing convenient things like the astrology signs bronzed on rose lines in Catholic churches. And my favorite astrology calendar is actually at St. Peter's Square, which by the way isn't square, at the Vatican, where they're using an Egyptian obelisk stolen from Heliopolis and following the shadow of that obelisk, the length of the shadow at midday throughout the year. So it's called the meridian calendar, to track where we are in the year by where that shadow of an Egyptian obelisk is in a track in the bricks of St. Peter's Square with plaques that show the tropical zodiac signs. Like that was a huge thing that was coming on at this time because we had forgotten how long the year is and where we actually are in the year. And with the Gregorian calendar advent, I think they went from October 4th one day to October 14th the next. If you were like a Catholic country, the Puritan countries resisted and didn't go there, as did many others. Some still haven't like left the Julian calendar construct behind. But why is this important? Because y'all, if you're 8-8 Lions gating, if you hear my heart smiling, by the way, it's because Anna's out throwing the baseball with Ko outside, and it's just the cutest. So sorry, be here now. Do you know that baseball has 108 double stitches? Sorry. Because if you're 8-8ing, you better like honor which framework you're working within. And Neo, he wants his back pay for those 10 days that the calendar skipped. I mean, imagine if your birthday was like October 6th, and like that just didn't happen that year. Pretty amazing. Can Greenwich Mean Time be linked to the Green Man? Ooh. Well, thank you for that, Valerie. I never did that one. Amazing. Right. Shameful stealing of antiquities. That obelisk that is now erected in St. Peter's Square, it was first moved to Rome by Caligula and put just kind of around the corner, but it had originally been taken from Heliopolis by Caesar and then brought to Alexandria, right? And there's a cross on top of it with a ball, and the rumor is it holds Christ's remains, right? And so yes, stealing artifacts, shameful. You can find some, by the way. You can find full Egyptian temples in the Met in New York City. And let's talk about that because somebody mentioned the annual flooding of the Nile. But is it just antiquities they're stealing? Some magic there. How do you empire? Do you? I'd prefer not to. Hey, Robin, how about this? Hit that thumbs up button, friends, and share to help spread this good stuff. Thanks for that. And Paige says no. I don't think to that. I accidentally clicked that one. Done that a bunch today. Wonder what you think about triskaidekaphobia. Let's talk about that another time. It's a great topic because 13 is a really beautiful shape. You can see an earlier weekly Wednesday transmission. And by the way, you can get to the playlist on YouTube by typing in geminibrett.com/weekly, where I offered a presentation that I called No on Prop 13, which was against this idea that Ophiuchus is some 13th zodiac sign. Love the constellation. I love the number 13, by the way. But there's a very important reason why we 12. And that helps us understand and honor and have reverence for the beauty of 13, as I believe we should. Okay. Well, so I think we've done maybe enough of this 8-8 Lionsgate is simply the cross-quarter thing, but in what calendar construct? Well, that actually wants me to bring in, hold on, I forgot. I don't want to share clients' names by touching this button, especially the super famous ones. Why? Okay, this. So Lionsgate 88325, because 3 + 2 + 5 is 10. No, why? Because that was the year of the Council of Nicaea, which was held in a place in Byzantine that we now call Iznik, Turkey. You'll see that I've left only the sun on the screen. Oh, wait, who are these beings nearby? Well, let's go investigate them as well. But I was intrigued to find that in this year of the Council of Nicaea, which did do some kind of holy day placement, at least for Easter and maybe for Christmas as well, that the sun at 15 Leo did happen on August 8th in what was then the Julian calendar. And it looked a little something like this. Well, as you can see, this was actually 4:32 a.m. So let's put our feet back on the ground here. And oh my gosh, Regulus was rising at the time. And Sirius was on high, but not as high as it gets. And how high does it get in Turkey anyway? I decided to start at 3:33 because as long as we're playing with numbers, right? And because look, it was around that time on that day when Sirius, at least in that place that we now call Iznik in Turkey, it's around that time when Sirius was rising and becoming visible. And this, of course, I think is the most common thing that you hear related to 8/8's Lion Gate, that if there is an astronomical framework for it, it has to do with the heliacal rising of Sirius. And that, and I guess we've been waiting for this, that back in the day, the heliacal rising of Sirius coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt. Okay. Well, do you know that the Nile doesn't flood annually anymore? Why? Because they built that dam, which destroyed an entire culture, the Nubian civilization. Look into it. But it did end droughts for many others. And so the Nile tends to be more consistent than it once was before the building of this dam near Aswan, which we'll probably visit today as well. Because we should go to Upper Egypt, which of course is in the south, as well as to Lower Egypt, which is of course in the north. Why would Upper Egypt be in the south? Well, where is the sun at midday? If you live in the northern hemisphere like Egypt, why would the north be Lower Egypt? Well, where is the sun at midnight? And the answer for we northern hemisphere beings is in the north beneath the ground, and the midday sun is up in the south. So south is upper and north is lower. People say this has to do with the flow of the Nile, which unlike most rivers on earth does flow from mountains in the south to the mouth of the Mediterranean in the north. But I'm sure this has to do with Horus, with Ra, with the sun. What do I think about Nubia? I don't know enough. I think we've lost so much. I think my heart was sad to go there and find not only temples that had been misplaced, but a misplaced people as well. In my only interaction when I visited Egypt once with Nubian people was like, that was being sold like a tourist attraction, an add-on, and it was heartbreaking. What I think of the Nubian people mythically, is that it's probably from there, which most of this magical science came from, but I really don't know. And I've had some education by friends who do, but I'm not one to speak there. Besides, I have a sadness in my heart that this dam was built, and it's not like that was the first attack on the Nubian people, but I feel it was that. And at the time, damn, and moving temples. Like, so if you want to talk about stealing artifacts, some amazing things did happen, by the way. So like the Temple of Philae, like the Temple for Isis, was moved from one island to another because the island where it used to be is now underwater since the dam was built. So I just want to retrograde back to this. I assume you live in Cape Town and you don't wear capes. Oh, dang it. And we spell don't differently. What a drag. Well, I am someday going to found a new place called Cape Town where cape wearing is mandatory. And it won't be on a cape. Okay. Yeah, so temples were moved. I mean, visiting like Ramses Temple, Abu Simbel, is amazing. It's the one with the huge, like 3-story tall statues of pharaohs you're walking in. And it was literally cut into blocks and moved, I think, like 40 miles from where it originally sat, because when they built the dam, it flooded this area and literally islands went down. And some temples were just completely drowned. Some, like one of them, at least part of it, a temple for Hathor. I haven't been there yet, but Anna, my partner, Scorpiana, had a really magical experience there once. I believe it now lives in the Met in New York City, which is like crazy. Right? Obelisk, by the way, in Central Park. But let's try to get back to the trunk of this tree. Seriously? So what is the heliacal rising of Sirius? And when should we look? Because a thing that you'll be told is that the heliacal, if you go on the quest, is that the heliacal rising of Sirius was the beginning of the Sothic calendar. And I'll talk about what this is and share with you some imagery around it. And that it coincided with the flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, which happened at summer solstice time. Okay. Well, that would be cool if you believe that Egypt lasted for like 100, 500 years. We're talking 3,000. And if you know anything about Earth's third motion, which is the axial precession, which creates amazing phenomena like the precession of the equinoxes and the slipping of the tropical degrees, like the Tropic of Cancer, the northern hemisphere summer solstice degree, through the directions and therefore the seasons, then you will know that such happenings as the heliacal rising of Sirius are not going to express at the same season of the year forever. And in fact, what folks are saying is that now it's happening at 8/8 Lionsgate, maybe especially at 8/8 Lionsgate. But it used to happen with the flooding of Nile, which is at summer solstice. Has anyone dealt with the kind of the break in logic there? So are we celebrating the solstice, or are we celebrating the heliacal rising of Sirius, or are we celebrating 8/8, August 8th? August, of course, the 8th month of the year, because oct means 10. If you're into that whole Gregorian trip, man, what are you doing here? And again, let me just rewind to the first thing I said. Portal if you got them, friend. Right? Like if this is a time where you can open up your heart, align yourself, ascend, do what you got to do. When I ask, is it new age or new cage? We want to, of course, be careful not to go so deep into the new world that we don't live in the world that is right here. But maybe it's not burying your head in the sand to ignore the news. since the news is simply oh, linked to a single typewriter called Empire. Anyway, I don't know. You do you. And if you're about to portal out, son, daughter, mama, do what you do. I will say personally, this is my portal today, sharing with y'all. I did go out to see the heliacal rise of Sirius today. So let's go to the tape. And in doing so, I can speak a bit about what a heliacal rising is. Let me make this big. All right, so who do y'all see on the screen? Would you like a tour guide? Is any of it showing up? Because things are not particularly bright. Maybe they're more obvious here. And actually, if I let it play, and maybe I'll take the sound down, but you can hear Maya making some beautiful baby coos because I went out for 2 hours on a star walk with her this morning, strapped to my tummy as it is. This is Jupiter, and this is Mars. And by the way, 1 week from today, Mars will meet Jupiter here in these degrees, the second face of tropical Gemini. This is the royal star Aldebaran, the Eye of the Bull, who is currently hosting their meeting. Aldebaran in our day and age projecting to 10 degrees tropical Gemini. Okay, so Gemini sign, not Gemini constellation. And that's when I learned to differentiate the two from my first teacher, Daniel Gemario, by calling things like signs Gemini and calling things like constellations the twins. These are the heads of the twins, by the way. I'm not sure if they're showing up on your screen, but this is Castor and this is Pollux, their heads, and here are their feet. Propus, the foot of Castor, is actually kicking the Tropic of Cancer, the most northern point of the tropical zodiac, which in our day and age is on the hand of the high man Orion, or on Orion's club. And that changes with precession, that changes with Earth's third motion, the great year of 26,000 years. In our day and age, and this only happens about every 26,000 years for a short time, Orion's belt is on the equator. And therefore Orion's belt, and hopefully you can see these three stars that I'm circling here, they rise due east, and in the northern hemisphere they rise like a pillar, and then they set horizontally due west because they are now configured to Earth's equator. That will change with precession. So the foot of Castor here is as far as the zodiac or the sun's path, and for the most part that of the planets gets north of the equator, and Orion's belt is on the equator. All right, well, Orion's belt also, you can draw a line through those stars rising, at least from the northern hemisphere point of view, and they will point to the rising of Sirius. So I was out here this morning walking with the baby, patting her butt to help her dream and sleep, exposing her crown to starlight, as I do most mornings, by the way, and letting mama sleep for a bit, especially the Pleiades, for she is named for one of those seven sisters, Maya. And actually, Maya's just starting to smile and really start noticing things. And I could see her actually seeing Jupiter this morning, which was so cool, right? Anyway, by this point, she was sleeping, and I went to go look for the heliacal rising of Sirius. Now, it's August 7th, and so I shouldn't see Sirius until tomorrow, right? Does anybody live in the southern hemisphere that's here? How long have you been seeing Sirius? Okay. Now, I did see Orion, as we just saw on the screen. And you know what? I'm going to find an earlier video for you, just pushing some buttons here, buttons and buttons and some more buttons. And we'll do one of these. And oh, let's go to like, Anyone? Videos from this morning? Okay, cool. Yeah, let me share this with you because you'll get to see. Since it was earlier in the morning, or probably we should say later at night, since mornings really feel like they begin at sunrise, you'll see a lot more planets on your screen. Ew, stop signs have 8 sides. 8, Lion's Gate. Okay, so turn the volume down on this thing. Yeah, so here you see the Pleiades at the top of the screen. This is Mars and Jupiter currently traveling through the face of the bowl. This is the royal star Aldebaran. In our day and age, the Pleiades at the Taurus Gemini cusp. I have no idea what this is. Just light weirdness on my lens from this street lamp here. This is part of a class I recorded this morning, or a bonus for a class to help people know that you can be in terribly light polluted areas and still do the sky work. All right. This is Capella, the Amalthea, the goat who raised baby Zeus and her 2 kids. This is of Auriga and Pleiades, Capella, moving over here to the bottom left of your screen, Castor and Pollux, part of the sacred hoop from wonderful mystery traditions that then extends down to what currently would be beneath the ground. Let's do that. Procyon and Sirius, and then Regal or Rigel, the foot of Orion, then back up to the Pleiades, or some use Aldebaran, right? So Orion's belt, you can go out there tomorrow or the next few days, and they will point to the rising of Sirius. So I just started seeing Orion in the morning star like, I don't know, maybe 10 days ago. When Maya was born, and again, she was named for one of the 7 sisters, one of the Pleiades. The Pleiades were just having their heliacal rise. And then I would go out during her first couple of weeks. Well, I would stay in. Usually there's only one window in our house that looks that way, and it's this tiny little like porthole, and I have to stand on the bathtub to look out. Her mom got mad when I held her up by standing on the bathtub to the Pleiades one morning. So cool to hear that your mom's name is Maya as well. Ours is spelled a little bit differently, Maia, like the Greek, the mother of Hermes. Anyway, so I went I think maybe a week ago, and I looked through that window and I was like, who is that? And it was Betelgeuse. It was a shoulder of Orion. I hadn't yet seen Orion's morning stars. Well, that's the heliacal rise of Orion. There's actually an old tale that I think really speaks to us of this annual event. Orion, who the hunter, the son of Poseidon in the Greek myths, was not really a great dude. So I prefer when I'm with that constellation, I prefer Osiris or Osir, or the true shepherd of Anu, which is how the Babylonians knew those stars, and at least in the Mulapin tradition. There's a story anyway from the Greek tradition where he was this hunter and kind of did a lot of inappropriate things, especially when alcohol was around. And he was punished for one of these things. His sight was taken from him. And he had to go on this journey to get his sight back. He was led by a young one to the east, which is the young side of the zodiac, right? Sorry, side of the horizon of the Horus, or the hours. Anyway, sorry. Where he then reclaimed his sight, seeing the light of Apollo on the rise. So this is this tale of Orion's heliacal set and heliacal rising. Let's utilize Stellarium astronomy software for this. And we'll do this with Orion. I'm just going to go to where I live, and I'm going to go to today. And let me go to like 5 a.m. when I was out there taking that video of Orion's belt, right? So just to catch you up with what you were looking at in the video. And is this on the screen? It is. Actually, let me go back. Will somebody please type if you can see me with my like circle device circling Mars and Jupiter and zooming in on Orion's belt and Orion's nebula, which of course is the place where our star was born. Can you just write yes if you can see that? Let's put this away and smile as I wait for your response. Okay, cool. Thank you. Cool. So let me get this back on the screen then. Buttons, 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 buttons. Great. Okay, cool. So this is this morning, 8/8. Lionsgate. Wait, that's tomorrow. Okay, good enough. So will I see the heliacal rising of Sirius tomorrow? And probably not, maybe. Okay, well, you might have noticed in that video that there was kind of like a hill in my way. So if I go on top of that hill, I'll get a better chance. All right, and you know what? Why are we in Richmond, California? Giza, folks, let's go to the Great Pyramid. And see from there is the heliacal rising of Sirius on 8/8. Now, do you see the difference? See how Sirius is now above the ground and it's much darker out? I mean, we might even go back some days. These are back sidereal days. I might even see Sirius back then on August 3rd. Right? Like, do you know, for example, that the Sphinx faces due east, looking for Sirius to rise, right? Wrong. Sirius rises southeast. And sadly, today the Sphinx is looking at fucking Pizza Hut. And you really don't see the stars too well in Giza because of all of the light pollution. But some of it's just because of the desert. Anyway, if anybody's looking in Egypt tomorrow, will they see Sirius rise before the sun? Possibly. It's probably going to take me a little bit longer. And the most important thing I can say right now is that if you believe 8/8 Lionsgate is about the heliacal rising of Sirius, well, where on earth are you talking about? Because let's go to Cape Town, South Africa, and we'll see when it happened. First, though, let me talk more about what a heliacal rising is in case you don't know. And let's utilize Orion to be our being to talk about this. And I got to go back in time. Retrograde. I'm moving the sun backwards through the zodiac, but don't worry, we'll be okay. So here we are, like April 18th in Giza. All right. And the sun has set. Let's rewind just the clock. It's day. And now, technically speaking, when the sun sets in the west, sunset. You know, it's said that in Kemet, in the land that we now call Egypt, there was no word for death. They just called it westing, for it was known that what wested would later, after it went through the Duat, through the underworld, rise again in the east, which I think is a beautiful thing. Now, Orion rises and sets every day of the year. Let's watch that. Let's let the sky spin. And there's Orion through the Duat, through the underworld. And here's Orion about to rise. And as I said before, in our day and age, because he's on the equator, his belt rises due east, which is an amazing thing. Now, we wouldn't see this day. Why? Because the sun is in the sky, right? But here's Orion coming to his culmination. Orion, you know, chases the Pleiades through the sky. Fortunately, they are protected by this bull. But this is a time in April 2024, April 19th. Hold on a second. Let me just go forward today. Because 420, bro. Let's let the sun set on April 20th. And from Giza on that day, clouds allowing, we would have very clearly seen Orion here with the sun beneath the horizon. So the stars come out, right? And there's Orion. Well, let's go through the days. And instead of me like, well, you know what? Let me do this. I'm just going to go from one sunset to the next. So here's sunset on April 21st, and Orion's an evening sky, right? So let's move through the hours and the sunsets, and we see Orion as evening stars. And here's the sunset the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next. You see how the sun moving through now the bowl is getting closer and closer to Orion. We're now on April 20th. So let me let the sun get down beneath the horizon, the horizon. And we're still seeing, we can no longer see Orion's foot. This is regal. But we can probably see Orion's shoulder, Betelgeuse. Okay? Can we see Sirius? Yes. It is said that Asur, the one that we call Osiris, most of us, like went through the underworld and he became these stars in the sky that most of us know as Orion. And that his sister, his queen, his wife, Isis, became the star that these days we call Sirius. For a time it was called Sothis by the Greeks, and it was the star to which the sidereal annual calendar called the Sothic calendar was linked to the heliacal rising of that star. So Orion, let me just go a day after this. Let's let the sun set. Let's go another 10 days, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now Orion's basically setting as the sun sets, right? And so we can't see Betelgeuse anymore. I mean, maybe Betelgeuse is above the ground and the sun is not, right? But the software, it's doing, it's doing what it can. But if I like take these constellations and lines in a way, like, is this actually what we're seeing in those stars? So the sacred hoop of stars here, by the way, is Capella and Castor and Pollux and Procyon. Well, here's Sirius. So maybe Sirius is seen here in our day and age on like May 30th in Giza. Probably not. If I go back in time, some days, oops, those were back in hours. Let's do like, this is like May 15th. And the sun setting, and I think clearly we can see Sirius at that time. Right, but the idea is that while Sirius rises and sets every day, right, the heliacal rising of Sirius and the heliacal setting of Sirius is once a year. So you're asking, you're in Kenya, will you see Sirius rise? Yeah, you could have seen Sirius weeks ago, I imagine. The heliacal rising and setting is this, right? So we just looked, there was a time earlier in the year where Orion, where Sirius are visible as evening stars. Well, what happens after that is the sun gets closer and closer and takes them under the beams. When Sirius disappears under the beams of the sun, the dog days of summer start. Eventually, by the way, because of precession, they'll have to call those the dog days of winter in like 12,000 years, right? And it said that from special places on Earth, Sirius disappears under the beams of the sun for 70 days and 70 nights. And that this is why, like, if you were privileged enough to be mummified, it was a 70-day process. The Sothic calendar was a star-based calendar. It was a Sirius-based calendar that would start each year, each sidereal year or star year, when Sirius is first seen rising before sunrise. Okay. And if we're looking at that today from Giza, right? So here's Sirius. Let's just take Sirius to the ascendant. I got a button for that. All right, well, obviously in May, it's not the heliacal rising of Sirius. Sirius is still on the evening star side of the sun. Sun is setting and then Sirius sets, right? So let's just go to the next day, and I'm just going to push this button a bunch. And we're going to go through until the sun aligns with Sirius. Many of you will know that Sirius projects to 14 degrees tropical Cancer, which is here, 7-6 Sirius gate, dog gate. But it's a long projection because Sirius, while the brightest star in our sky, is a full 39.5 degrees away from the heart of the zodiac, from the sun's path, from the Earth-Sun plane, all right, the plane of the year. So like if you have 14 Cancer rising, you don't have Sirius rising, okay? And when the sun is at the Sirius degree, which is this perpendicular projection of Sirius's heavenly placement to the sun's path, the sun is actually 39.5 degrees away. So please know that, right? That's true anywhere on Earth in our day and age. Anyway, let's bring the light back and let's just continue through, and I'll circle the calendar dates down here beneath. I'm just going from one Sirius rise to the next. So now I'm into July 27th, 8th, 9th, 31st. Here's August 1st. Now, look, is Sirius rising early enough before the sun to be seen, to be visible? I would say possibly. But of course, you know, there's buildings, there's dunes, I should say, because we're in Giza, less than, I should say, hills. There's dust storms and the like, right? But I believe Sirius at this time in precession probably has heliacal rising in Giza before August 8th. Still, let's go to Sirius rise 7 days later on 8/8. There, okay. And then let's let Sirius come up above the horizon, right? I mean, the star is going to need to climb up above some of the haze on the horizon, at least typically, and some buildings and stuff, depending on where you are, maybe hills or dunes, to be visible. And so from that perspective, maybe 8/8 is a good date for the heliacal rising of Sirius, when Sirius comes back reborn from the flames of the sun, who has now passed by, transforming Sirius from an evening star now to a morning star. Maybe this is the end of the 70 dog days of summer. Do you see? Well, let me first, before we travel through time, let's go to travel through space. Let's go to Cape Town, where everybody wears capes, which is amazing. Sorry, that's probably like not a cool thing to say. Here's 8/8 Lionsgate, 8/8 Lionsgate at Cape Town. And let's look at the heliacal rising of Sirius on August 8th. Okay. Well, here's Sirius rising at 3:37 a.m. if you're into that whole clock thing. And let's just let Sirius come up above ground a little bit. Like, do you think that 8/8 is the heliacal rising of Sirius in Cape Town? I don't think so. Why? Because Cape Town's in the southern hemisphere, and Sirius is 39.5 degrees south of the sun's path. Sirius definitely does not disappear for 70 days at Cape Town, South Africa, and that's not even that far south as far as the hemisphere is concerned, right? Let's go back in time. And I'm going to keep the sun about this close to the ground, and because it's kind of dusk time, and I'm just going back in days. Oh, wait, yeah, that's not going to keep the sun beneath the ground. Let's look maybe here. Here's June 21st. Rewind time. I mean, in Cape Town, South Africa, I believe Sirius was already visible as a morning star on winter solstice. That's right. I said winter solstice in June because we're talking about South Africa and the southern hemisphere, friends. Like, the Sirius's disappearance under the beams of the sun maybe is 70 days in Giza, and by the way, maybe not in our day and age. Why specifically should we 8/8 Lionsgate portal based upon the astronomy of Giza? Or maybe it's just all of Egypt. Okay, well, let's check out all of Egypt then. So I'm going to go back to Giza, and I can't wait to go back to Giza someday. And we'll bring it to 8-8 Lionsgate in this 8 year of 2024. And let's just let Sirius rise tomorrow. Okay. And we'll bring the ground back in and let Sirius come up. And yeah, probably pretty good, right? All right. Well, that's for Lower Egypt. Again, lower because the sun is beneath the ground at midnight in the north when you're looking from the northern hemisphere. Let's go to Upper Egypt. The sun is up above the ground in the south when you're looking in the northern hemisphere sky. So let's go to Aswan, where that dam was built. And let's teach Stellarium astrology software that Egypt is a decent word. Okay. So by the way, Aswan has a latitude of 24 degrees north. It's very close to the Tropic of Cancer, which would be 23.5 degrees north, or 24 degrees and 23 degrees and 26 arc minutes north of Earth's equator. Whereas Giza has a latitude of 30 degrees north. Okay, so we're traveling just with the click of a button 6 degrees south, 6 degrees of latitude south towards the equator. Well, Sirius quite visible on 8-8 Lionsgate for Aswan and the Nubian folks who reside there. And south of there, even more so. And let's actually rewind some dates of Sirius rising. Here's August 2nd. I mean, maybe even earlier. Probably not in the end of July. Okay, now let's go back to Giza and we're going to travel through time. What I wanted to show you there, and hopefully you saw enough, it was certainly more extreme when we let ourselves get all the way down to the south of this continent to Cape Town. Of this, I am confident. Not sure about the Capes thing. But, you know, in Giza, Egypt, let's now go to, I don't know. So when was Egypt? Because they tell me that in the Egyptian civilization, the heliacal rising of Sirius was configured to the annual flooding of the Nile, which happened at summer solstice time. Okay, when was Egypt? Anyone got a year for me? Maybe let's ask the CIA. Let's go to Wikipedia. Oh wait, did I say that part out loud? Right. Let's just go Egyptian civilization. Okay, I told you I can't spell. How about ancient Egypt? Okay, so 3150 BC to 30 BC. I'm sorry, BCE. Oh wait, no, BC. So check that out. 3,000 years. And Paige is saying here over 5,000. And that's probably a better bet. And if we go back to when the Great Pyramid was built, we're talking about tens of thousands, probably, if not 100. But don't tell the archaeologists I said that. So when? So let's do 30. Let's do 46 when Julius first proposed the Julian calendar. And should we keep it in Giza or go to Alexandria? So it was 46 BC And let's go to August 8th. And Sirius quite visible before the sunrise at that time. So let's go back. September 8th. Well, let's do June 21st because, of course, that was solstice, right? Wrong, because calendar stuff. So all we have to do is bring the sun to that Cancer glyph right there, which is the part of the zodiac that is most north of the equator. Yes, the tropical zodiac is entirely astronomical, contrary to ignorant teachings of our modern times. So let's go here and put the sun on the Cancer point and see Sirius. So we'll just move through time and oops, the sun was rising before Sirius. Okay, so the flooding of the Nile at solstice time coinciding with the heliacal rising of Sirius. Well, I can't say if this was the time when the Nile was flooding or not. I assumed before the dam that was really an annual event and would have stayed configured pretty close to the solstice and being a seasonal thing. Well, the heliacal rising of Sirius is going to change with precession. So I don't know. Let's go back like 1,000 years. And we'll put the sun on the solstice. And let's just rewind before sunrise. Can we see Sothis? Oh, nope. All right, let's go back. I don't know, 1,000 years. Hopefully this is still on the screen. You know what? I better check in. We all good? Y'all seeing things happening? Can somebody say yes if we were looking at stellarium astronomy software together and the sun rising and me moving it to the Cancer point and things like that? Thank you very much, Paige. All right, back at it then. All right, so here's 2046, 2,000 years before the Julian calendar advent, and let's put the sun on the Cancer solstice degree, which is right there. And here's Sirius rising. Sirius, by the way, back then, 38.5 degrees from the sun's path, 38 degrees south celestial latitude, we say. And back then it was projecting to the longitudes of about 49 degrees, which is 19 Taurus, right? Not 14 Cancer where it projects to now. That's precession, friends. This is not far enough above the horizon, or so let me say the sun is not deep enough beneath the horizon during this rising of Sirius for this to be a thing. Let's go back another 1,000 years. And by the way, I'm not like leading to something I've already discovered. I haven't done this yet. And then we'll put the sun at the solstice. All right, well, that seems pretty good. Here's, I'll speak Northern Hemisphere because Giza is Northern Hemisphere. Here's summer solstice, 3046 BC. And this might be around the time of the heliacal rising of Sirius. I don't know, let's go in between. Let's do 2500 BC. And then we need to put the sun on the solstice degree. Conjunct Saturn that year. Yeah, this might be it. So maybe the heliacal rise of Sirius was somewhere between 3000 BC and 2500 BC in Giza. Should we be looking at Luxor? It's further south of there. It's going to be different. Elizabeth, this is fun. So I'm learning that Cape Town is the colonial name, but an older name, Camisa, the place of sweet waters. In Spanish, how do you say shirt, which is pretty close to cape? Just trying to add a little humor to our journey today. Thank you for that. It's Camisa, by the way. So, right, when people say that the 88 Lionsgate is about the heliacal rising of Sirius because the heliacal rising of Sirius was with the flooding of the Nile at the solstice time in Egypt, we're looking at a very specific like century in Egypt, maybe 2 centuries. I want to do one more thing because Lionsgate, it kind of feels like it should have more to do with the lion star than the dog star. I will say this in the Sirius Mystery, which you should check out, written by Robert Temple, I believe in the 70s, but maybe earlier or later. He believes that the Sphinx is not a lion at all, but a dog, and that it's all about Sirius. For me, I don't know why you wouldn't build the thing looking at Sirius then, which it doesn't and can never. Well, unless the comet hits or some other kind of cataclysm, and we do have some evidence of that in Egypt, but I digress. Twice in the 26,000 year great year, the precessional cycle, the Sphinx will stare straight at the lion rising. And by the way, one of them's happening now. So why not the Lion constellation? And that's why you may have noticed on this chart that I titled 88 Lionsgate. For the year of the Council of Nicaea, I have both Sirius and Regulus on the screen. Now, the sun's beams are said, at least in the Hellenistic tradition, to extend 15 degrees to either side of the sun, which by the way is 30 degrees, and there's 12 of those such sections in a 360-degree circle like the zodiac, and that might have something to do with the 12ness too. Anyway, probably Regulus is not far enough from the sun here to be seen heliacally rising on August 8th, 325, but I actually want to talk about our time now. So let's go to the Lionsgate tomorrow. And I'm going to go to Giza, to Tiza. And let's go back in time to when there was an 8-8 happening for the sun at 15 degrees in tropical Leo. And we'll just try to combine all these kung fus. And there was this year, 2007. Oh my gosh, what if that said 2008, which is a 10 and therefore a 1? Or 2006, which is an 8. That was the last 888. No, it wasn't. 2015 would have been 1 too, right? Okay. Anyway, so here I'm going to go to this time 8/8/2007. But 2007 80. And let's just go to when the sun rises. And rewind time a bit. And yeah, I mean, it does seem to like, it seems that if good conditions and a clear view, Sirius would have been very visible on that day. I mean, let me go back by sidereal days. Is that the first day of Sirius's visibility? Stellarium suggests probably in that year it was more like August 2nd or August 3rd, like closer to, interestingly, the August 1st calendar celebration of Lunasa or Lammas from a different tradition. But as one of you brilliantly mentioned before, why wouldn't the Egyptians celebrate the cross quarters? They do seem to be very much in tune with the movements of the sun by day and by year, yes? We love seeing that Mercury is on the scene here. Maybe it helps us feel on track. So anyway, here's August 8th. Here's the other thing I wanted to look at. What if I go, and let's just go to Sirius setting the day before. And then I'm going to continue and let the sun come down to the horizon. And I bet you some of you have already gone where I'm going next, and it will be the last thing that we do today. Is this. Is Regulus visible? August 7th, probably if you have a super clear view and the dust isn't up and a dune or a pyramid's not in your way or a Pizza Hut or whatever else. What about on August 8th? About the 9th or the 10th? I mean, Regulus clearly gone. Regulus, by the way, already gone from my skies. I live much further north than the Giza latitudes at 38 north of the equator. Same as Athens, Greece, where I reside here in Richmond, California, in the Bay Area. And I have already lost Regulus, and I have not yet seen Sirius as a morning star. One other thing I want to do, let's go back to 2500 BC, where we did seemingly find a time where the heliacal rising of Sirius coincided with summer solstice. So to do that, I've just got to get the sun back to the Tropic of Cancer. Just give me a second, please. Okay, and then let's come back before sunrise. So it's like June 14th, 2500. Don't think, by the way, that means the sun is in Leo or about to move into Leo or late Cancer. This is the sun of the very first degree of Cancer, okay? That has to do with calendar switches and all sorts of other things. By the way, however, well, never mind. I was going to show you a Julian calendar thing, but we've already taken too much time. So what I'm interested in here, because this does seem perhaps to be the time when Sirius had heliacal rising, first visible rising before sunrise for the year. That would be the beginning of the Sothic calendar, and literally keeping that calendar according to the rising of Sirius. And that's what I was saying earlier, like if that's how I'm keeping my personal calendar at my home or for my farm or whatever, like it's going to be different than the cat down the street, or at least in the town down the way, because we have different topography and different dunes and different weather. Like maybe they saw Sirius 4 days after I did. You see what I mean? So, I mean, part of the intent of a so-called civil calendar is to offer the opportunity for everybody in the civilization to follow the same timings for holidays, holy days, and such, right? Which doesn't have to be a bad thing. And it gives you the opportunity to make your way to StarryTelling Hour on time. All right. So what I just want to see here is, would it be that at that time, the heliacal rising of Sirius also coincided with the heliacal setting of Regulus? And clearly the answer is hell no, because this is around the time. And it would be fun to find when the equinox and therefore also the solstices precessed to Regulus. Let's try 2800. Oh, wait, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, it looks like maybe it's 2300, 2350. How Fibonacci, when the Tropic of Cancer is aligned to the heart of the Lion Regulus. So without taking too much time in the softwares and such, let me just say there's this amazing thing that's happening now, which is that in Giza, so if that's where you need to be for your portal, and I say we go hang out and check out the pyramids and stuff, because amazing, the most amazing. This 8-8 Lionsgate thing, which in some years will actually be the time when the sun's at the cross quarter, tropical 15 degrees Leo. In our day and age, and it didn't used to be this way, might just be the heliacal rising of Sirius as well. And I haven't seen anybody add this piece yet. Also, Regulus's, the lion's heart, heliacal set. And as we just found by going way back in time to when in Egypt, at least in Giza, the heliacal rising of Sirius did coincide with summer solstice, sun ingress tropical Cancer for the Northern Hemisphere, which we assume was also the annual flooding of the Nile. At that time, the sun was on Regulus at solstice time, even more so, and we just found, so Fibonacci 2350 BC, okay? And so we're living in a pretty special time. And I maybe should have just started with this and then brought us here. We're living in a special time where 8/8, August 8th, in this Gregorian calendar construct, closely coincides with the sun at 15 degrees tropical Leo. And also for some limited latitudes of the Earth, like Giza in Egypt, also seems to coincide with both the heliacal rising of the dog star Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, and also connected to the very royal lioness Isis, or Aset, and with the heliacal set of Regulus, the lion's heart. So perhaps now you have enough proof to step through the portal. Or maybe you don't. If you're the type who needs proof about whether the portal's open or not, you wouldn't be here anyway. But for those of you who do enjoy playing with both the skeptic and the psychic poles of this wonderful thing called the starry science, hopefully you feel that you've found the right place. Again, I'm very honored by the presence of your presence. It is the greatest gift. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if that hasn't happened already, share it around to help spread the word and to help build the business. We just had a baby. I'm freaking out about that. If you'd like to support anyway by sending a donation, you can easily do so by typing in Gemini Brett /donate on your device, GeminiBrett.com/donate. If you want to buy me a cup of tea, GeminiBrett.com/sessions. If you want to support the work by booking an astrology session with me or a song of the soul, you can go there to learn more about what that is. Or GeminiBrett.com/constellations. If you want to learn about the School of Earthstrologic's membership community, which is amazing. I mean, I see many familiar names. Many of you are already there. Krista, brilliant. And he tells me that the 17-year-old son and still freaking out, that will never end. Yes, and I'm sure there's new reasons for the freak out too. I mean, here of like, how can I be a provider? Should I have kept a so-called real job instead of choosing to go full into my calling and such? Unfortunately, I know better than to succumb to that fear, but it is scary and tricky. And so just again, if you want to support the work, GeminiBrett.com/donate, GeminiBrett.com/sessions, GeminiBrett.com/constellations. We would love to see you in the Constellations crew. We have regular community discussions scheduled every week, and there's a teaching every week as well. An Earthstrology teaching from me once a month. An Astro Tarot correspondence teaching from Phelan Shiva once a month, an Astro Herbalism teaching from Amala Hall once a month, and an Astro Embodiment teaching and practice led by Alyssa Luna once a month. And it's an amazing space. We'd love to have you there. We're still offering the maiden voyage price of only $16 a month. So come check it out. If you join now, you'll have access to the recordings of things that we've been doing for months and months and months now. Thank you. And see you on the other side of the portal.